Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a story that's as much a cautionary tale as it is a reflection of reality, especially for those of you thinking about meeting women in Thailand. We've all heard the stories, the rumors, and the myths, but this tale is based on real experiences. So, if you're planning a trip to Thailand, stay tuned. What you hear today might just change the way you approach your journey. Let me take you into the world of a man we'll call David. David was like many travelers, eager to explore the wonders of Thailand. He had heard the stories, some thrilling, others unsettling, about the women who work in the nightlife scene. But David wasn't just looking for a good time, he was searching for something deeper, something more meaningful. After spending some time in the lively streets of Patong, David decided to escape the chaos and head to the quieter regions up north. In the city of Bang Khan, he met a woman named Suprani. She wasn't like the bar girls he'd encountered in the touristy areas. Suprani was educated, had a good job at a car dealership, and came from a respectable family. To David, she seemed like the ideal partner, someone he could build a future with. At first, everything seemed perfect. Suprani was attentive, caring, and for the first time in a long while, David felt like he had found someone genuine. But as the days turned into weeks, things began to change. Suprani became increasingly jealous, constantly bringing up David's past relationships, which she knew little about. It wasn't long before she started to pry into his personal life. One day, David noticed something odd, messages popping up on Suprani's phone from a man in Germany. They were planning to be together, making promises that should have been reserved for David. Confronted with this betrayal, David was torn. Suprani apologized, swore it would never happen again, and David, against his better judgment, decided to give their relationship another chance. But things didn't improve. Suprani wanted to move to Pattaya, a party city notorious for its nightlife and the many tourists who visit for its wild scene. David, needing a break, suggested they take some time apart. He headed back to Phuket, thinking it might give them both some space to figure things out. A few months later, Suprani reached out to David again. Her relationship with the German man had fallen apart, and she was back in Bang Khan with no job and a daughter to support. She begged David to let her come to Phuket, to help her get back on her feet. David, still caring for her and her young daughter, agreed. But this decision would soon turn into a nightmare. Once in Phuket, Suprani started working at a hotel, a significant step down from her previous job. But more troubling was how she began to insert herself into every aspect of David's life. She was constantly on his phone, messaging his friends, and demanding more and more of his time and money. It was clear to David that Suprani wasn't interested in building a life together, she was interested in controlling his. The final straw came when David discovered that Suprani was still in touch with other men, even planning to meet them while she was living with him. The lies, the deceit, it was all too much. David finally decided to end it for good. But even then, Suprani was relentless, refusing to leave and continuing to contact him, even after he returned home to Canada. Months after their breakup, Suprani still reached out, asking for money, claiming it was for her daughter. But by then, David had learned his lesson. It was a hard one, but it opened his eyes to the reality of relationships in Thailand, especially with women who, despite their outward appearances, might not have the best intentions. You might think David would be more cautious after that experience, but loneliness can be a powerful thing. Back in Bangkok, David met another woman, a police officer named Pang. This time, David thought he had found someone trustworthy. After all, she was a member of the Royal Thai Police. Surely, she would be different. At first, Pang seemed perfect. She was fun, intelligent, and had a good job. But soon, David noticed some red flags. Pang had multiple nicknames and she was always busy, too busy, it seemed, to spend much time with him. When David checked a dating app they had both been on, he found that Pang was still active, despite her claims that she was serious about their relationship. Confronting Pang didn't go well. She lied, made excuses, and continued to deceive him. Even though she was supposed to be a figure of authority and trust, Pang turned out to be just as unreliable as the others. Eventually, David had to end things, but not without another painful lesson learned. By this time, David had been through enough to know that the labels and jobs these women held didn't guarantee anything. Educated, professional, or otherwise, their actions spoke louder than their titles. It was then that David began to realize that maybe, just maybe, the bar girls, the ones who were upfront about what they wanted, were the most honest of them all. David's experience with bar girls, although not without its own complications, was different. These women didn't pretend to be something they weren't. They were upfront about their intentions, and in a strange way, that honesty was refreshing. David knew the deal: money for companionship, and while it wasn't a fairy tale, it was straightforward. But even with bar girls, things could get messy. Feelings could develop, expectations could change, and what started as a simple arrangement could turn into something more complicated. David learned this the hard way too, when one bar girl he'd grown close to started asking for more time, more money, more commitment. In the end, David walked away from these experiences with a deeper understanding of the complexities of relationships in Thailand. He realized that no matter what a woman's profession or background might be, the key was to approach each situation with eyes wide open, understanding the cultural and social dynamics at play. So, what's the takeaway from David's story? If you're planning to meet women in Thailand, go in with realistic expectations. Whether you're meeting an educated professional or a bar girl, remember that appearances can be deceiving, and intentions aren't always clear. Enjoy your time, but don't let yourself get swept up in something that could lead to heartache. I hope this story has given you some insight and perhaps a little wisdom for your travels. Remember, every experience is different, and while David's story might be one of caution, yours could be different. Just stay smart, stay safe, and most importantly, stay true to what you're really looking for.